when I write Python code, I sometimes use simplified Chinese characters for different things. In this package, I need to count a bunch of different things, and using Indo-Arabic numerals all the time got really confusing. So I use these Han characters, which are used in China, of course, Japan, and were used frequently in Korea up until recently, about the 1950s or so. And maybe you also use ideograms in your coding. If so, you've encountered this problem right here where it doesn't line up. It just helps to keep things organized visually, right? But because the Latin characters come from one font and the Han characters come from another font and they're different sizes, they don't line up. That's why I have this jagged edge here where I'm trying to line things up, but it's not working. There are ways to convey meaning if things are well aligned. Like there's a relationship here between these three lines. If the characters were more aligned, the relationship would be a little more obvious. I use, for the Latin font, for the basic programming font, Fira code, which I really like. It has the coding ligatures. So that's why this is a double equal sign. Instead of it being separated, is put together. And this is, look, see, this is a exclamation point, not equals. But because of the coding ligatures, when they're right next to each other, it substitutes them for the not equal sign. So I think this is a fantastic font. I tried to find another font that was the same width as Fira code, and I could not find it. So I made my own, and it's here on GitHub. You can download it, but I'll come back to that in a minute. First, let me show you what it looks like. Ta-da! It's all aligned. So as I was saying before, there's a relationship between these three lines, and I think the relationship is easier to see now, where the first line is this amount minus that amount, and the second line uses the second amount minus the third amount, and then the third line, see, it's a stair step, and because it's aligned, I think it's easier to see. So when other people are reading my code, or when I'm reading my own code, but it's 3 months from now and I can't quite remember why I did it this way, I think this will help convey meaning. That's why many programmers use the monospace fonts. And here's the other page where the alignment I was showing you over here was all off, but now the entire thing's aligned. The relationships between these identifiers makes more sense. Of course, this code doesn't make any sense to you because you don't know what's going on with this. This is a weird math problem. And but now you can see that there's at least some sort of system. It's much easier to see because it's all aligned. And I think other people may want to use, especially simplified Chinese ideograms, in the way I do in this package. This is AST Toolkit, Abstract Syntax Tree Toolkit. And if you program in Python and you use type variables, type var, you know that the convention is to use like the letter T. Well, the letter T doesn't mean anything. People will write underscore T because they want these really short identifiers. But this is just one character long, like the letter T. It's easy to recognize, but it has a little bit more meaning. And even if you can't read Chinese, you can learn at least a few characters, especially because I chose these characters so they would be visually distinct when they needed to be, and that there's a system to it. So I use these ideograms for type variables. And I think it's easier. I think it's much easier to read than all the underscore K, underscore T, underscore V, underscore R. It's like, what do these, excuse me, what do these things mean? So in this function that you're looking at right here, body attribute, there's a lot of things going on, and this character that looks like a box, and this character that looks like an I-beam, they have the same semantic value as the letter T or the letter S, maybe, if you don't know what the ideograms mean. But if you know what they mean, then there's a lot of meaning here. And the way I programmed it, at least in this module, if you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what it means. So this ideogram that at first looks like a box, it's actually the character Cole, and it means mouth because it's like someone's open mouth. That's the baseline meaning. And then it can be adapted for other things. So sometimes it will mean a window, for example. And it can mean other things related to the word mouth. So one of the actual meanings of call is a statement, like to speak. So the way I'm using it here in this function, I'm using it as a type variable, as a stand-in for all AST statements. Call. Now, if that were just the letter S, what would that mean? That would not have any obvious meaning to it, especially if English is not your first language. So it's just a little bit of learning. If you don't already know how to read it, this will be much more meaningful. This other character over here is gong, and it means an expression. And that's why I chose it, because I'm using it to represent all of the AST expressions. Let me show you over here all of the characters that I've chosen, at least in this module. And I was really deliberate about what I chose so that people who are not familiar with reading Chinese would be able to distinguish the characters, and with a little bit of practice would learn to see the patterns in the characters. So the whole thing would be much easier. So this ideogram is this word is two characters together. That first character, that's just one. It just means one. And what do you think this means? It just means two. So you'll see that there's a system. This one over here, we'll start with the one that's got the two. If you wanted to pronounce it in Chinese, you'd say fu. That means fu in this case means operator. Fu has a lot of Chinese characters can mean a lot of different things. In this case, it means an operator. So erfu, I'm using as a stand-in as a type var for binary operators because there's two binary, two operator. So binary operators are things like addition, multiplication, where you have to have two identifiers, two operands, and then the operator. So if two foo means binary operator, then one foo means unary operator. And this is stuff like not or invert, where you only have one operand. And this second character, this is a little complicated, a little, but it's part of a system. There are other type bars here that have this same character at the end. It's the one that's pronounced foo and means operator. Now this is by foo. By means a comparison operator, such as equal to or greater than. And the ideogram, so the second character is foo, that means operator. And the first character, it's like two things that are next to each other that are almost equal, like they're being compared to each other. Comparison operator. And then over here, we have, oh no, there's three characters. But that's good because I did that on purpose. Some of the type bars have one character, some have two, and this one has three. So that, again, is another way to help you visually distinguish the different type variables if you don't read Han characters yet. So this is another one that ends with foo, operator, and then there's two other things in front of it. Let's see what it means. So if we were going to pronounce it in Mandarin Chinese, it would be, oh, this one's a little difficult. Give me a second. No, gotta do it. Who else? No, I didn't do it. Buerfu, that's not very good. The R sound, there's four different R sounds, and I'm not doing it very well. The first part of the word, like if you take the foo part off, is a transliteration of the word bool, like which is short for Boolean, because the Chinese word for Boolean is Booyah. They took the person's name, Boolean, and transliterated it into Chinese. So Burian. Oh, that's pretty good. Burifu. Ah, why can't I do that? Burian. But I can't say Burifu. Oh, I did it. Ah, there we go. Okay. So Bur sounds like bool. Bool. Operator. That's what this set of three characters means. It's a Boolean operator. So I greatly dislike how often programmers use these really short identifiers that maybe they make sense to the person who was programming it, but when we go and try and read it later, we don't know what it means. So that's why I've picked a bunch of short identifiers that have inherent meaning so that we don't have to guess that T means type and K means key and V means value and R means return. You don't have to guess any of that. It's a system. So this is the character Wen Yi. Literally means dictionary value. Like the associated type var starts with the same character. So you can see that they're related. So Wenjian is the dictionary key, and Wenji. So this is the actual dictionary value, and this is the dictionary heading or the key. This looks like a tree, and it means wood or tree. So abstract syntax tree, that's why it's in here. These all have some kind of meaning. And this one is my replacement for just the letter T. You have this generic letter T for type, whatever. This character means G, and it's a generic measure word. It's sort of like a suffix, but the point is it can mean pretty much anything. And then over here, this is a combination of gui, the first character, gui, gu. And gui means return. So this is my generic return identifier if I need it. But I can append or prepend this GUI character onto anything instead of just using the letter R always. If the input, for example, is coal and the output is also coal, but it's been transformed, then I can make the input coal and the output GUI coal. It's just there's more inherent meaning. Even if you don't read Chinese, with just a little bit of familiarity, you'll get a lot more meaning from the code that you are reading. So how do you install it? Well, pretty easy. Here on GitHub, my name, Monter Hogan, integrated code fire font. Go to the releases. As of this recording, I only have what I have made is the Fira coding font combined with mostly simplified Chinese characters. There are other characters in this file. There's about 60,000 characters, but it's not complete for other Han languages right now. I'm trying to learn how to do that. If you know how to do it, please help me out because I have tried very hard to figure it out and it hasn't worked. But you can download the different weights, or this one zip file has all of the weights. And then on your machine, you can install them. If you have Windows, like I do, there's this free program called Font Base. I really like it because it allows you to easily install or activate and then uninstall, deactivate just fonts instead of having to actually physically, install them and put them in your font directory. So here's Fira code, and let's take a look at, we already know that Fira code can't display Han characters, and let's compare it with mine. There you go. And you can see that the widths all line up what we saw there earlier too. Oh, and let's go back here. Fear Code, which really is my favorite. I think it's fantastic. Has the guy who invented it or created it, Tomsky, he hasn't put out a new release in 6 years, but he has updated the source code. So until he puts out a new release, if you want the latest release with all the changes he's made, you can come here to my fork, Hunter Hogan Fear Code, and download it. And this has this is Fear Code without Han characters, but with all of the changes that Tonsky, the creator, has made over the last 6 years. And it's right here. You download it, click unzip, install it. Yeah. Uh, Enjoy.